Hey, this is Cavallo from datingfire.com and datingadviceguru.com. You know what? One of the most popular topics that women ask about is how to get a guy addicted to her. I mean, it seems to come up all the time, both in conversations and in the questions that people send in to me. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to make him sexually addicted to you. But these are some tips you've probably never heard before. Stay tuned. And of course, if you like what you see here, why don't you like and subscribe? Hey, it supports the channel, and I can use every little bit of juice I can get, so why not do it? And of course, if you have a question or a comment, leave that in the comments section below. And of course, make sure you stick around to the bitter end because, well, I saved the best stuff for last. Hey, you know what? Sexual attraction and sexual connection is one of those things that just has this electric charge to it. It's super powerful. And what I'm going to talk about today with this whole making him sexually addicted to you is going to work not only in terms of sexual addiction, that's kind of, that's its own topic, but relationship addiction. That's what you really want. You want a man who's addicted to having you around. It doesn't matter what's going on between you, right? As I like to say, the secret is that it's not what you do in bed, it's what you do in his head. And that's the trick. That's the thing that's going to make the difference in terms of that addiction factor. First of all, I got to ask you this question. Why do you want this? Why do you want this in the first place? What is so important that women want to have a man addicted to her? Let's be honest, you want to feel desired, okay? You just want to feel desired by him, and you want to know that that desire is not going to run out. It's not going to let him go chasing some other woman, and it's going to keep him in your pocket for as long as you have the relationship. Why wouldn't you want that? Now, a lot of what I'm going to show you, you can do it in texting as well as do it in person. But there's one thing I got to warn you about, and it's something I've been talking to all of my coaching clients about, and I'm going to pass it on to you as some free advice. Be careful. Texting is becoming the #1 overused weapon of choice when it comes to relationships, mostly because of this whole, well, we have the COVID thing, now we've got just so many more long-distance relationships. It's one of those factors that, well, I'm just going to tell you right up front, you're probably overusing it right now. Texting should not be the primary form of communication. In fact, you probably could stand to cut back quite a bit, and I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. Another important thing you have to realize is that you've got to monitor your obsession, that's right, your obsession with making him obsessed. It does you no good if you're going to flip the tables on yourself by making you addicted to him, right? And that's inevitably what happens with most women is what they do is they get so focused on getting this guy obsessed with her that she doesn't realize she's already obsessing about him. She's obsessing about making this guy interested in her. So it's already flipped the tables. And that makes you, well, it makes you look less valuable in his eyes. The first principle here is the scarcity principle. This is something that was put into a book called Persuasion, The Psychology of Influence. I think that's the right title. It's by Robert Cialdini, and it was put out back in the 80s, and it remains one of the most influential pieces of literature on the secret parts of our psychology that most people don't even know they have, much less want to admit they have. The scarcity principle fits in with one of his principles of persuasion. Your availability is one of the most important factors because it's going to influence how he sees you, how he thinks about you. It doesn't matter if it's the sex part, it doesn't matter if it's in the bedroom, it doesn't matter if it's in the rest of the relationship. So you've got to make sure that you are a little bit less available than he wants you to be. It's important. It's very, very important. Now, one of the things that women think is going to make a man addicted to her is, of course, the sex. What goes on in the bedroom? What can she do for him to make him want to keep coming back for more? Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of things you can do to keep him in that mode of thinking. They often center around things like adding novelty, a little bit of adventure, maybe exploring new things, working on the trust and the connection at the same time, though. That's the factor that's going to keep him coming back for more. The first thing I want to tell you about is the fact that there's really not that much you're going to be able to do to give him some fantastic level of pleasure that's going to make him think that you're the goddess of the bedroom with him, okay? The thing that you do to make him feel that way is by creating a unique connection. The amount of pleasure we get out of the bedroom is really kind of in a narrow bandwidth. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more, but it's not that different, really, from person to person. What makes the difference is the person that we're with. So one of the things you want to do is to do some conditioning. So what you do is, this is a very simple tip that you can use, is make sure you're consistent with the perfume that you're wearing. Whatever scent you're using, make sure you associate it with you. In other words, he only smells that on you. He hasn't smelled it before. So if he's ever told you, hey, I like that scent, it's one I've smelled before, I've had girlfriends that wore that same scent, get rid of it. Get a unique scent that works for you, that he will only associate with you. The same thing can be said for your lipstick, or if you have a certain body lotion that you use, or whatever hairspray. These things, all the scents especially, are going to make a big difference, because scents and smells actually reach our long-term memory of our brain, and they do so fast. They go straight there. You may have had the experience of smelling something like food, or you walk into a room and you smell something and it brings you right back to a memory of your childhood, like your grandmother's kitchen or something like that. Well, that's the psychological impact of that part of your brain. The smelling sensation goes straight to your long-term memory. You see what that does, right? So if he smells something new, what's that doing? It's embedding you in his long-term memory. Hey, don't thank me for this stuff. I know it's awesome, but, well, okay, thank me a little bit. Again, make sure you are presenting yourself uniquely to him. It could also be in the clothes you wear. It can be in the way you move with him, things like that. Make sure it's unique. The next thing is surprising him. You want to be able to, well, okay, this is a big deal, right? Guys like sex. Yes, we know this. They like it a lot. But the most important part of it is the sense that he can't predict what's going to happen. There's a certain element of randomness. And that's what you want him to feel. You want him to feel like he doesn't know what's going to happen next. He doesn't know when he's going to get it next. He doesn't know what's going to happen next. The more that he feels uncertain like that, the more you're actually churning up and starting these love hormones in his brain. Now let's talk about these for a second, because this is also another area that most women don't know about, that there are these particular hormones that are released in your brain during the course of forming a connection, a bond with somebody. It starts out, well, first of all, there's three primary phases of a relationship. We've talked about this in previous videos. Number one is lust or infatuation. The second one is attraction. That's when we're starting to build that connection with somebody and really starting to fall for them. And then there's the attachment phase, which is the long-term buildup of these hormones in our brain. And that's the part that makes him actually addicted. It's literally a chemical addiction. So there's certain chemicals that are released during the lust phase. There's certain chemicals that are released during the attraction phase, and there's certain chemicals that are released during the long-term attachment phase, when we're building that with somebody. Now, you want to be able to, first of all, create those chemicals, and the way you do it best, first off, is to give him that sense of uniqueness. Surprise. Just think about that one word, surprise, and keep that close. That's one of the things you can just make a mental note. Surprise him as much as possible. And it doesn't just have to be with sex. It can be with anything. You could buy him some little toy or a tchotchke from a store, or surprise him by bringing him a cupcake. Anything that takes him by surprise is good when it comes to creating this love chemical in his brain. In fact, these chemicals are so strong that they've likened them. Well, first of all, the love chemicals that are released in your brain, like dopamine and the effect of serotonin on your system and things like that, in the early phases, including the norepinephrine, which is your natural adrenaline, that particular chemical cocktail in your brain is released most during the early stages. That's what gets us really hooked on a person and wanting more, like every minute, right? And they liken this to crack cocaine, believe it or not. It has that immediate impact, it's powerful, and you feel it right away. Now, other chemicals like oxytocin and vasopressin, these are the ones that affect the more long-term feelings of love. And what these are likened to is a drug addiction to, unfortunately, opium or heroin, or one of the more subtle but longer lasting effects. And that's the withdrawal you feel when you break up with somebody. That's what you're feeling when you're going through a breakup, and why you act so irrationally. It's because you're literally going through withdrawal symptoms. So some more tips to kind of give you the idea of how you want to create this addiction with him is, well, first of all, I gave you the being unpredictable, or that principle. There's the scarcity principle, which I also talked about. Another is simply by the playful, fun nature that you guys have with each other. This is really, really important. A lot of women overlook this. Really important and paramount to you should be the amount of fun he has when he's around you, because that's escalating those same chemicals. And it's easy to do, but it's also telling him on an intellectual level whether or not he could be with you over the long term. And that's really what you want, right? I mean, be playful with him, tease him, tickle him before you guys get it on and get the whoopee going. Don't give him everything at once, but again, make sure actually that's playing two different things at the same time. What you're doing is you're delaying it, so you're drawing it out. That makes him want it more. Of course, we all want what we can't have. It's a natural psychological system. And at the same time, it's also building up that feeling of fun he's having with you. And that's going to create the sexual addiction you're looking for. Make sure he always wants a little bit more from you. Again, going back to scarcity, one of the most important things you can do is to stop before he becomes satisfied. In other words, maybe a little oversatisfied. There's a certain level of satisfaction he should get from every encounter with you, but it shouldn't be oversatisfaction to where he feels like, I've had enough, I'm good, thanks. The shorthand for this is always leave him wanting more. Always. Because that's what's going to pull him back to you time and time again, okay? Always leave him wanting more. Cut off the supply before he has a chance to become oversatiated, and he's going to keep coming back. Trust me. And yeah, it's kind of like the drug thing, but I don't want to talk about drugs. This is the essence, by the way, of flirting. Flirtation is nothing more than knowing how to lead a man on a little bit and then back away. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's the equation for love that works every single time. Don't believe what everybody else is trying to shoot down out there, whether it's in the media or on Facebook or in social media, whatever that stuff is. Listen to Carlos. I've been doing this a long time. I've been studying it for a long time. Here's another one that's really important, and it relates to what I talked about before. Don't overdo it. Don't get too into this. If you're the one who's trying to make him sexually addicted to you, you can't obsess over it too much. He's going to notice that you're trying too hard, and a try hard is not attractive to a man. Another principle of the influence that I was talking about from Robert Cialdini's book is this idea of value. We don't value things that we don't value people, especially in social situations that we think are not valuable. In other words, we judge someone's value by how much we think other people want to be with them. And if you're out there scrambling and sending him texts all the time, calling him all the time, you're complimenting him all the time, you make it clear that you adore him, and then you try one of these techniques that I'm talking about, it's going to fall flat you're going to fall flat on your face. It's not going to work. It can't work because you're making a very clear contradiction that he's going to notice. Human beings have very sophisticated mechanisms where we know if another person is putting on a show or putting on an act, and he's going to know it. If you're trying to get a guy to obsess over you, show him the things that are unique about you, and then make sure that he doesn't get enough of them. Okay? If you overdo it, he's going to get tired of you, and the second that happens, he's not going to be addicted to you. That's going to kill the addiction right there, and he's going to go looking for somebody who is less available than you are. I know, it sucks, but that's the way it works. And you know what? I got a ton of these tips, but what you really need is a little more than you're going to get from a short video with Carlos on YouTube. I've got a lot more of the stuff that you need to read about right now, and I'd love to invite you in to take a look. You can get a free VIP membership to my newsletter. No charge, no credit card required. Just go on over to datingfire.com/free book. That's datingfire.com/free book. You can get my free ebook on the 7 habits of unsuccessful women. It's actually not the title, but it sounds good. These are the 7 things that women do that actually push men away and scare them off, which is gonna be the opposite of making them addicted to you. Am I right or am I right here? Okay, so go get it. This book gives you the immediate secrets that you can stop making these mistakes right away, and that's actually kind of 90% of the battle. Stop making the mistakes, and guess what? You're going to be in. All you got to do is make it a certain period of time with a guy, generally 6 to 8 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, 3 to 4 months in that range. If you can get past that mark with him, you are going to be in love, and so will he. But unfortunately, this is also the limit that most women run into. They can't get past that. So if you want to learn how to, grab the book. Go on to datingfire.com/free book. And before you run off to another Carlos video, I know you want to do it. You're addicted to these videos. Go ahead and make sure you do the big 3. Number 1, make sure you like and subscribe. If you stuck around this long, why wouldn't you do it? Come on, it's good, it's cool. All the kids are doing it. And of course, make sure if you want to suggest a video or a particular topic, leave that in the comment section below. I check them out every so often. Hey, this is Cavallo from datingfire.com and datingadviceguru.com. Go on over to datingfire.com/free book, get your book, and get on the newsletter list. As always, live and love with passion.